The new evidence around Mercedes' power unit crisis is impossible to ignore. Russell was leading in Canada when his car suddenly switched off. Antonelli was running second in Barcelona when his Mercedes died just laps from the finish. McLaren, using Mercedes' power, suffered electrical failures too. And now the numbers are brutal. Mercedes has lost 43 points to reliability. Ferrari has lost only 10. Hamilton has lost 0. That is not bad luck anymore. That is a championship alarm. Because Wolff admitted the failures look similar, but they may not come from the same cause. And the most important failed hardware from Canada cannot even be fully examined yet, because it has to travel back by sea under special safety rules. So Mercedes is racing with one terrifying unknown hidden inside the car. If the fastest power unit on the grid cannot survive the race, Hamilton does not need Ferrari to beat Mercedes on pure speed. He only needs to finish while Mercedes breaks itself. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why this problem has become so dangerous for Mercedes, you have to look past the word failure. Because failure sounds simple. A broken part. A bad weekend. A car stopping when it should not. In Formula 1, teams can usually survive that. They diagnose the problem, replace the component, adjust the settings, and move on. But this is not that kind of problem. This is worse. Mercedes is not dealing with one clean failure that points to one clean answer. The data suggests something much more uncomfortable. The symptoms are similar, but the causes may not be the same. The car switches off, the race disappears, the points vanish, and then the team is left asking whether the same thing happened again, or whether a new part of the system has just exposed another weakness. That is the nightmare. Because if you know exactly what broke, you can attack it. If you do not know exactly what broke, you are not fixing a problem. You are hunting one. And Mercedes is hunting this problem while the championship keeps moving. That is what makes the Canada failure so important. Russell was not running around in the midfield, hoping for a lucky result. He was leading. The car was in position to take a major victory. Mercedes had the race under control. Then, on lap 30, the W17 suddenly shut down. That moment changed the meaning of the entire season. Not because one car retired. Because a Mercedes retired from a winning position. When a backmarker breaks down, the paddock notices for a moment. When a championship-leading car breaks down while leading a Grand Prix, the entire paddock starts looking closer. The failure was linked to the energy recovery system, the part of the power unit that handles electrical energy. In simple terms, it is the system that helps the car recover power, store it, and release it when the driver needs speed. Under the 2026 rules, that system is no longer a small helper in the background. It is one of the most important parts of the entire car. That is why the failure was so serious. Mercedes had built its early dominance around being brilliant with energy. The car could deploy power well. It could keep pulling down the straights. It could make rivals feel like their own batteries were fading while the Mercedes still had another level. But when the part that creates your advantage also becomes the part you cannot fully trust, the whole championship changes. That is the cruelest twist in this story. Mercedes' greatest strength may be connected to its greatest risk. The team did not just lose Russell's points in Canada. It lost certainty. And certainty is one of the most valuable things a Formula 1 team can have. A driver needs certainty when he attacks. A strategist needs certainty when choosing a plan. An engineer needs certainty when deciding how aggressively the car can be run. After Canada, that certainty was damaged. Then came the most frightening detail of all. The failed hardware could not be fully examined immediately. Because the component involved high-voltage battery technology and safety concerns, it had to be shipped back under special procedures. It could not simply be flown home like a normal racing part. It had to travel by sea. That means Mercedes is racing with incomplete evidence. They can study telemetry. They can compare data. They can look for warning signs before the shutdown. They can inspect other modules and try to protect the surviving parts. But the damaged component itself, the one that may hold the clearest answer, is not immediately available. Imagine trying to solve a crime when the main piece of evidence is still on a ship. That is the position Mercedes is in. And while they wait, the pressure does not pause. The next race comes. The next practice session starts. The drivers still need to push. The power unit still has to deliver. Ferrari still scores. Hamilton still finishes. That is why this crisis feels different from an ordinary reliability issue. The timing is brutal. Mercedes began the season looking like the team that had mastered the new regulations. The W17 was not just fast, it looked ahead of the field in the exact areas that mattered most. The electrical system, the deployment, the way the car carried energy down the straight, all of it made Mercedes look like the benchmark. But now, every time that same system is mentioned, there is a second question attached. Can it survive? That is not the question Mercedes wanted rivals to ask. They wanted Ferrari worrying about how to catch them. They wanted Red Bull and McLaren studying performance gaps. They wanted the championship to be about speed, strategy, and execution. Instead, the championship is now also about survival. And survival gives Hamilton a path. That is the part Mercedes cannot ignore. Hamilton has lost 0 points to reliability in the data. 0. While Mercedes has lost 43. While Russell has already watched 25 points disappear. While Antonelli has lost a major result. Hamilton keeps finishing. That does not sound dramatic at first. But in a championship, consistency becomes violent over time. A driver who finishes every race does not need to win every race. He just needs the rival to keep bleeding. A podium here, a win there, a clean result when Mercedes stops, and suddenly the gap that once looked safe begins to shrink. This is why Wolff sounded so frustrated. He knows Mercedes cannot build a championship on almost. Almost winning Canada is not enough. Almost finishing Barcelona is not enough. Almost understanding the failure is not enough. In Formula 1, almost gives your rival the points. And Hamilton does not need an invitation twice. The Barcelona failure made the danger even clearer. Antonelli was running second, deep into the race, when his Mercedes shut down. Another huge result disappeared. Another Mercedes car stopped. Another major point swing went against the team. And this time, Hamilton won. That is what turned concern into crisis. Because now the reliability issue was not only damaging Mercedes internally. It was directly feeding Ferrari's comeback. Every failure did not just hurt Mercedes. It helped Hamilton build belief. There is a difference between chasing a faster car and chasing a fragile car. A faster car makes you feel desperate. A fragile car makes you patient. Hamilton can be patient. He has built entire races around patience. He can sit close enough to pressure, protect the tires, wait for the moment, and collect when others overreach or brake. If Mercedes gives him a reliability weakness to target, he does not have to force every move. He can let the season come to him. That is terrifying for Mercedes. Because the W17 may still be faster in key phases. It may still have the best energy deployment when everything works. It may still make Ferrari suffer on long straights. But if the car cannot guarantee the finish, every advantage becomes conditional. Fast, if it survives. Dominant, if it reaches the flag. Unbeatable, until it switches off. Those are dangerous words for a championship favorite. And the problem is not limited to the works team. McLaren, using Mercedes power, has also suffered electrical and power unit problems. In China, both McLaren cars had separate electrical failures and could not start the race. At Monaco, Norris suffered a power unit-related retirement. That does not automatically prove every issue has the same root cause. Different cars package the power unit differently. Different cooling layouts, different operating conditions, different race demands. But it does create a wider pattern, and patterns are what engineers fear most. One failure can be bad luck. Several failures across related systems become evidence. That is why the data feels so brutal. Mercedes is not just at the top of the performance conversation. It is also at the top of the reliability damage table among the leading teams. 43 points lost is not a minor inconvenience. It is a championship swing. And the most painful comparison is Ferrari. Only 10 points lost to reliability. Hamilton, 0. That contrast changes the whole story of 2026. Earlier in the season, Mercedes looked like the team with the superior power unit. Ferrari looked like the team trying to survive a deficit. But now the question is more complicated. Would you rather have the power unit with the bigger weapon, or the one that gets you to the finish more often? Mercedes still wants the first answer. Hamilton is proving the second answer can be just as dangerous. This is where the new regulations become the hidden villain of the story. The electrical side of the power unit is carrying more load than before. The battery, the energy recovery system, the power electronics, and the cooling demands are all under extreme stress. These are not ordinary road car problems. These systems are operating at racing intensity, at high voltage, under heat, vibration, and constant energy flow. The performance potential is enormous. So is the danger. The more complex the system, the more difficult it becomes to understand every failure quickly. A shutdown might begin with heat, or voltage, or a battery module, or an inverter, or a control problem, or a combination of several things that only appears when the car is pushed in exactly the wrong way at exactly the wrong moment. That is why Wolff's admission matters. The symptoms look similar, but it may not always be the same failure. That sentence should scare Mercedes more than any Ferrari upgrade. Because it suggests the team may not be fighting one enemy. It may be fighting a family of related problems, all hiding inside the most complicated part of the car. And while Mercedes investigates, it has to keep racing. It has to choose power unit settings. It has to decide how aggressive to be. It has to protect points without giving away performance. It has to keep Russell and Antonelli confident, even after both have seen major results disappear. That is a psychological battle as much as a technical one. A driver can say he trusts the team. He can say he believes in the process. He can say the right things after a retirement. But once a car has stopped underneath you, the memory stays. The next time a warning appears, the next time power delivery feels strange, the next time the pit wall asks for a mode change, the mind remembers. That can affect how a driver attacks. Russell knows what it feels like to lose a win. Antonelli knows what it feels like to lose a huge result near the finish. Hamilton knows what it feels like to watch Mercedes fail while Ferrari scores. Those experiences matter. They change the emotional balance of the championship. And that is why the first block of this story is not really about broken parts. It is about broken trust. Mercedes still has speed, but trust has been shaken. Trust in the power unit. Trust in the race distance. Trust that the car can be pushed to the limit without suddenly going dark. Until Mercedes restores that trust, every race carries a hidden danger. Not just whether Ferrari can catch them. Not just whether Hamilton can outdrive them. But whether Mercedes can finish the race before its own power unit turns victory into silence. The next layer is where the story becomes even more dangerous for Mercedes, because reliability failures do not stay in the engineering department. They spread. At first, a power unit failure belongs to the people in the garage. The engineers open laptops. They study traces. They compare temperatures. They look at battery behavior, voltage movement, energy recovery, cooling, and every tiny warning sign that appeared before the car switched off. That is the visible work. But the invisible damage is much harder to contain. Because once a car fails in a race, everyone starts racing differently. The drivers think differently. The strategists think differently. The rivals think differently. And that is exactly where Mercedes' crisis becomes a championship problem, not just a technical one. Before the failures, Mercedes could race from a position of confidence. The car had performance. The power unit had strength. The W17 could use its electrical energy in a way that made Ferrari look exposed on the straights. Mercedes could attack, defend, and stretch gaps because the car seemed able to deliver when the driver asked for everything. But after Canada and Barcelona, every demand on the car carries a new question. Can it take it? That question changes the entire rhythm of a race weekend. In practice, Mercedes may have to decide whether to push the power unit hard enough to gather pure performance data, or protect the hardware because the risk is too high. In qualifying, the team may have to trust the system at maximum stress, knowing that one electrical warning could destroy track position before the race even begins. During the Grand Prix, the pit wall may have to choose between defending against Hamilton and protecting the components that have already cost them major points. That is a terrible position for a leading team. Because Mercedes does not only need to be fast, it needs to be brave. And reliability problems make bravery expensive. If Russell is leading and Hamilton is chasing, can Mercedes ask Russell to keep pushing at full power for lap after lap? If Antonelli is defending a podium, can the team afford to let him use everything the electrical system has? If a rival undercuts, can Mercedes respond aggressively, or does it have to protect the power unit and accept a more conservative race? These are the choices that do not show up in a simple lap time comparison. But they decide championships. Because a team with doubts gives away options. That is the hidden cost of Mercedes' failures. It is not only the 43 points already lost to reliability. It is the future decisions that become more cautious because those points were lost. It is the strategy that becomes safer. The deployment that becomes managed. The driver instruction that arrives a little earlier than expected.